Heveningham Concours had been off the calendar since 2019, so it was wonderful to be back in Suffolk for the event on the 3rd of July. It's an event with a difference, as it's part country show, part garden party and part motoring event. There's even a brass band playing here and a dog show.
Waggy style, who's Bali?
The concourse is held on the tiered lawn behind the hall, which gives it a unique amphitheatre feel, and it's an impressive mix of classics, vintage and modern supercars. Here you see the rally cars taking centre stage at the front. That's a celebration of the 50 years of the World Rally Championship. The first thing you see on display when you enter the concourse lawns isn't actually a motor car. It's this 1939 Westland Lysander. It was restored in 2003 at Duxford. It had seen service in World War II. Now this is gorgeous. When it comes to pre-war cars, I'm always drawn to the Alphas, partly I guess because I have memories of my grandfather's 2.3 8-cylinder car. This, dare I say, is only a 6C 1750 from 1929, supercharged, and is a glorious looking thing in just the right shade of red. It was actually owned by Dudley Benjafield, who is better known as one of the Bentley boys. And it even displays its 1929 tax disc. The Jaguar lightweight E-Type. You see so many replicas of these cars, it's easy to become a bit blasé about them, but there were only 12 originals, and yes, this is one of them, known as the Atkins Lightweight, after the owner Tommy Atkins. Now this car has always been a favourite of mine, the 1964 Sunbeam Tiger Lister. The chassis was designed by Brian Lister in Cambridge, and it's powered by a V8, and it was designed for the 1964 Le Mans race, where in actual fact it didn't really do very well. They were plagued by various problems, but you see it now racing in historics. I particularly remember seeing it at Goodwood in the TT, and it just seems to be getting quicker and quicker, and it's quite a change to the Cobras, which we're so used to seeing. Now another pre-war beautiful thing, this MG. I think the MG K3, this is one of the MG K3s. I think it's the greatest MG that was ever made. It's a small engine, 1087cc, supercharged. It's just so evocative of 1930s motoring at Brooklands. And this is what it would have been racing against, admittedly in a different class. This is a 1930 Bentley Speed 6 Tourer. I'm always amazed actually when you see the archive film of racing at Brooklands, when you see these enormous Bentleys pounding away on the banking, and there's the diminutive Austins and MGs lower down. It probably comes as no surprise that this Bentley used to be a saloon, and then in the 60s it was changed to the Le Mans style body. But now let's quickly move on to the DB4 GT Zagato. Wow, isn't that beautiful? These cars were always expensive. They're ridiculously expensive now, but they were always expensive, twice the price of an E-Type in period. And but the Zagato body does make the DB4 GT Zagato 50 kilograms lighter than the standard DB4 GT. But look at that profile. Wow. I suppose you could say that this is the Italian equivalent, the Ferrari 250 GT short wheelbase. This immaculate example was restored recently by DK Engineering. Comes as no surprise that DK Engineering had quite a few cars on display on the lawns. Now something very different, but this is such a charismatic car, a Lancia Special. You can see the Lancia suspension at the front. This car seems to have arrived really just this year on the UK historic scene, but it was restored in 2020, and Now moving on to this immaculate Jaguar XJ120 Roadster. Wow, you could, as they say, eat a meal off this. It was absolutely immaculate. I think it's David Gandy's car. What really caught my eye was the leather lattice work on the bucket seats. It was lovely. Another car from the DK Engineering stable. You often see this driven by David Cottingham, the head of DK Engineering at Goodwood. It's the Ferrari 500 TR. It was entered into the 1957 Le Mans 24 Hours, driven by Lucien Bianchi and wearing the Belgian racing colours, and it retains that colour scheme today. And of course the unmistakable shape of the Jaguar DType. This is arguably the most original of all the D-types. Look at that beautiful leather interior there, quite different to the immaculate 120 we were just looking at, but yes, the short nose variant, wonderful. Now we are moving into the most modern of modern cars. If anyone was at the Goodwood Festival of Speed, they will recognise this. It's the McMurtry Fan Car, and it broke the record at the Goodwood Hill Climb just a couple of weeks ago. If you haven't seen it, I recommend you watch that on YouTube. It's all electric, rear-wheel drive, and it has two fans which suck the air from underneath the car that makes it just stick to the road. Max Chilton was driving it, and you can see his name on the scrutineering label there. Just does 62 miles per hour in 1.5 seconds, by the way. And by way of contrast, here's a 1926 Austin Seven Chummy. This was found in a barn in New Zealand where it had been untouched for 50 years. It's been mechanically restored, but the body and paint work has been left. And so that is in extreme contrast to the Jaguar XJ120 that we saw, you know, and you can see the appeal of both of the styles of restoration. This Bugatti Type 49 was breathtaking, but what was interesting was that iconic horseshoe shape of the radiator that is echoed throughout the design here on the bodywork, but it is also there on the latest Bugatti supercars. Here on the Chiron, and I love the way the Bugatti use their racing heritage to name their supercars, Chiron being one of the works drivers. But yes, you can see that horseshoe shape again echoed, and here on the Devo as well. So I love that continuity of design. Aviation is a major part of the event, and there was a flyby or flying display by two Spitfires, always evocative. On the outside of the concourse in the country fair, there are also classics on show, and this lovely XJ120 caught my eye. I do think the colour scheme works, actually, even though it is a bit extreme. And it comes complete with a child seat. How wonderful. And then it was time to go home, and it was lovely just seeing the light aircraft flying off into the late afternoon sun. It made a beautiful end to a wonderful day out.